All right. Hey everyone, welcome to my live stream. In today's stream is all about helping you improve your line art. So if your manga lines look sketchy or messy, it's not due to lack of talent. It's likely because you're using your wrist instead of your shoulder. And you're unfamiliar with the three rules of line hierarchy. In this 1 hour masterclass, we'll go from shaky beginner lines to crisp publication, ready manga inking. So first, let's tweak out your software by setting stabilization to at least 15 to 20%. And of course, make sure you grab your sketchbook or your stylus and let's get into it. I'm going to use this custom comic brush that I've made through Photoshop. You could use a regular hard round brush if that's your preference. Set it to 20 set it to 20%. And if you feel like a little bit uncomfortable, feel free to extend it to 30%. And also, if it's at zero, your tablet will catch every micro shake in your hand. So it's very important to utilize your wrist, to, to utilize your wrist instead of your shoulders. Now I'm using a standard stylus pen, XP pen brush today with pen pressure turned on. If your software has vector layers, use them. They let you they let you clean up messy intersections with a single click, saving you hours of manual erasing. Okay, now before we dive into the examples and what I have displayed, we're gonna start with a quick drill. We start with ghosting. Don't just touch the pen to the screen. Hover your pen over the path first, mimic the motion in the air, and then lock your wrist. Pull the pull the line lightly using your elbow or a shoulder. Faster strokes are always smoother than slow, hesitant ones. Allow me to demonstrate. All right. I have mine's at 25. Like I said before, if you want to use yours at 20% to 30%, feel free. Now, here's some examples of what I just said earlier. And of course, if you messed up like I did when I tried to show you a demonstration how to utilize your wrist instead of your shoulder, make sure to use Control plus Z or Command plus Z if you're using Apple. Now, now when it comes to manga hair, now when it comes to the manga hair, tapered lines, press hard at the root of the strand of the hair strand, then quickly flick and lift your pen off the tablet at the tip. If you trail off too slowly, your lines will look blocky and heavy instead of sharp. Don't try instead of sharp. So don't try to sketch a long contour line by stitching tiny strokes together. Where you create your characters, where you illustrate shapes, just take your time. Just take your time and be quick with it. Do it in one fast sweeping motion. If you mess up, just undo it and try it again. Professional professional comic artists and professional mangakas hit the undo button dozens of times to get that one perfect curve. So don't feel ashamed. Okay, so as you can see here, we have this nice, crispy, nice, smooth rendering, line art rendering. And we have this messy, muddy one. So I'm going to show off the bad example. Otherwise, the don'ts. Oops, excuse me. Like do establish a line weight hierarchy. Now, notice how the outer silhouette and structural undershadows are bold. Oh, excuse me. I, this supposed to be the A good example. Now we have the bad example. Now, don't use flat, heavy outlines everywhere. When every single line is drawn with the same massive thickness, you lose the sense of depth. In your image, the inner details of the neck of the face, neck, and jacket armor where the exact same weight as the external silhouette, flattening the entire character profile. So as you can see here, I utilize this bad example. I utilize this character as part of my comic series, and I'm using him for the line art demonstration. And I'm using it, and I'm showing you these thick, bold lines as a bad example. There's no depth. You can't even see their eyes clearly based off the thick lines without zooming in. But even then, it still looks messy. Don't saturate details with the thick hatching. The shading creases on the vest and trousers use thick clum use thick, clumsy strokes that merge together. This turns form shading into chaotic black blocks that ruin clarity. So as you see right here, there's just no depth. It's just all of them are the same massive thickness. When you create line art illustrations, make sure you change the setting of the brush size when you add detail into the clothing. And of course, don't just strangle your character's expression. The eye contours and small facial wrinkles are drawn with excessively thick brushstrokes. This shrinks the character's features, making the expression look cluttered, smudged, and muddy from a distance. As I've stated before, yes, the character is angry, you can see it, but as I stated, since the lines are so thick, even though there's small details with the cross hatching, but the lines are so thick you can't even see the character's eyes clearly. It just it just looks alien like, if I'm gonna be honest. Now, this was the example of the bad example. Now I'm about to move on to the good example on what you should do. Now, do establish a line weight hierarchy. Notice how the outer silhouette of the structural undershadows are bold, while internal fabric layers and seam lines use thin, delicate tracking. This gesture creates an automatic 3D pop. Now, what do I mean by that? If you see the outline of the drawing, it's thick. It's thick, almost formed into a silhouette. And then after that, if you want to add small details, as I stated before, shrink the brush. Don't be afraid to shrink the size of your brush to get the small details in. And as you can see here, you can even see the character's eyes clearly now. Do use ambient occlusion for shadows instead of heavy scratching. Only thicken the specific points where surfaces tightly pinch together, like the armpit joints or jacket folds. This creates a natural light drop off without muddying your sketch work. Now as you Now as you can see here, now you actually see the folds and the curves more defined. It blends very well with the small hatching, adding that extra detail. Now, this is something you should always achieve when you create line art, when you do comic work and line work. And lastly, do preserve breathing room for face details. Now, Notice how notice how thin and crisp the lines are around the eyes, nose, and mouth on the right side. Keeping small facial expressions razor thin keeps the characters looking sharp and emotionally intense. As I stated, look at the nose is really thin, it's more defined. So is the mouth as well. In the eyes, you can actually see a lot of the character's expressions. Of course, with the detail of the hatching method I've used. All right, all right. Okay, okay. Now, I just showed two demonstrations of what's good and what's bad, what you should do and what you should not do. So now that we've broken down exactly what flat line crushes your drawing, depth, depth versus how variable lines make it pop, I want to make sure you have this down. If you have any questions about this specific breakdown, drop them in the live chat right now, and I'll clear them up before we jump into the live eyes demonstration. If you're watching the replay or the pre-recording later, drop drop your questions down in the comment section. I monitor those regularly and reply to as many as I can. Let me know if something isn't clicking. Otherwise, let's load up our next workspaces. Questions, drop them in the chat/comments. Theo Retic Karen, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad you find great value in this class. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'll give it a couple minutes. You just be and another thing. When I'm about to do demonstrations, I'm going to set up a split screen where this is going to be put to the side. But let's just say any new faces show up or anyone that's watching this right now, you can always watch this on the side. Hopefully the text is big enough for you all to see. But while I'm doing demonstrations and moving forward with the class, I'm going to put this layout right here onto the side. Hey, that's what's up. Greetings greetings from America. It's nice to meet you. Okay, if there aren't any questions, I'm going to move forward. Now, these are the examples that I will be using for my line art demonstration. The eyes, the spiky hairstyle character, and the main character of my comic series. We're going to start from the beginner to intermediate to something a little bit more advanced. All right? Okay. Now we're gonna be starting off with the eyes. And yeah, and if you haven't watched it after this live stream, make sure you check out my live stream on how I structured the eyes. Because I've also done a live stream on how to draw manga eyes. Yeah, excuse the ads, but let me know in the but let me know in the live chat if you can see the layout on the right. And remember, set your smoothing to 20% to 30%. If you feel like that's not comfortable with you, feel free to increase it as much as you can, as long as you get smooth lines. All right, let's load the opacity down to 60%. Let's get started. All right, that's good. There we go. Oh yeah, that's right. Brush size. My apologies. When it comes to the outlines for brush sizes, just like right here, it's eight. It's eight. That's how I usually do my. That's how I usually do the outline of my characters. I usually do eight if I'm doing it on like a medium or big canvas. If it's on a small one, do put it on put it on five. Excuse me. When it comes to brush sizes, when you illustrate your characters, as I stated in the beginning of this lesson, as I stated in the beginning of this lesson, in case you didn't catch it, um, it definitely varies. When you draw the outline, you definitely start with a big size, like I said, eight. But when you like add detail within the character, within the outline of your characters, do do five, and for the small details, do three. Good. I'm going to shrink the brush size to get the underline of the eye. I'm actually going to increase the smoothing capacity to 50. So I want this to be very smooth.
Take your passion for food and turn it into a career as a Navy culinary specialist. Learn more at navy.com/careers that cook. America's Navy, forged by the sea.
Now I know the eyes look soulless, but no worries, I'm about to fix it. Okay, now here's a quick trick for anyone that has access to Photoshop, Creative, or Procreate. If you want to make things a little bit quicker, use the copy and paste method. So hit Command J. It should duplicate this side of the eye on another layer. Hit Control T for control or transform, excuse me. Now flip it to horizontal and just move it to the other side. We're gonna add pupils to it, or irises, excuse me, to give it life. Sometimes I close, not sometimes, but most of the time, if I feel like I'm done, I will actually close the sketch, the layered sketch, to see if it's good. Oh, and after you do that, make sure you hit, if everything is fine, make sure you hit Control E to merge it with the previous eye, so that way you have all those random layers. Here we go. Here's the first option. Here's the first example of utilizing the line art methods I've learned throughout this class with the manga eyes. Now we're gonna move on to our next example. We'll move this to the side. Okay. Okay, so for this next demonstration, now we're gonna make things a little bit challenging. Now we're going to actually use the line art methods on the character, illustrating the character's face and the hair. So let's dive into it. Also, if you're finding value throughout this live stream, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. I do posts like these every 2 weeks. Not every 2 weeks. I live stream two times a week. Now increase the smoothing to 65% in order to get the perfect outline of your characters. Yes. The reason why I say 65% because if you're extremely new to if you're extremely new to doing line art, I think it's best you do this stuff when you work on complex drawings, such as your characters. And the reason why I say that is because you want the perfect outline of your of your character's silhouette.
It understands you, your team, and your work, so you can ask it for help with anything.
Can I ask it to summarize client feedback?
Yes.
Can I ask it to find time for a meeting?
Oh yeah, no problem.
Can I ask
The
it
layer's
to
opacity is at 70%.
plan? Sure. Can I ask it to call me the boss?
Actually, you can. See how Slackbot can turn you into the boss at slack.com/meetslackbot.
All right, that's good. All right, as you can see here, this is basically the outline of the character of my spiky haired character. Almost like a silhouette. This is what I was talking about. Okay, now we're going to shrink the brush size and add some details in it. Revert the smoothing brush. Excuse me. Now revert the smoothing pressure to 45. You need to have a little bit more control now. If you didn't hear that, 45% for the smoothing. Ooh, won't go too fast. All right, that's good. Let's fix the sharp edges for the spiky hair. Let's fix the shadows for this hair. You know, oddly enough, this one, the thicker inking, yep. This is actually a trick I actually see a couple artists do, where where in order to save time on the detail, is on usually the thick inking that's right behind the character's hair, the lower part of his hair. That's usually the back. That's usually the rear view of the hair. It literally saves time on detail, on adding all those extra details. You know? Now I'm going. Now I'm going to render out the face. Clean this up and change the brush size to 4 and the smoothing pressure to 66. Rosetta does it. Oh, okay, that's good. Another artist does it. I'll be honest, I don't know who that is, but my inspiration for creating thick lines like this is actually from Jim Lee. I really love how he does his heavy shading with the inking as well as the cross hatching. Yeah, let me fix the mouth. Okay, as you can see with our spiky hair friend, the line art rendering is done. As you can see here, there are different variations of line weight here. The outline of the lines are thickened. Inside, inside through the hair, it's very, it's thin. It's very thin, even down to the small details. I shrink, I shrink the brush size down to make it really thin to give that hair texture, to give that spiky hair texture, as well as I did for the eyes, just like what I did for the previous example with the nose and the mouth, and of course below the chin as well. Okay, now I'm going to get to the main event, which is the line art character, which is the main character of my comic series called Chaos Extraction, which I highly recommend you check out within my website. Link will be down below after this live stream is over, of course. But this is college. So for our final demonstration, I will incorporate all the line art lessons that I've said throughout this live stream onto this character. And of course, in a reminder, if you have any questions, just let me know. In fact, I'll even take some before I get started. I'll give it a couple minutes. All right. Okay. If there are no questions, I'm going to move forward. Now, when you create, now when you start creating characters, you must really take your time. I can go as far as to say increase the smoothing pressure to 65 to 70%, because you really got to take your time. It's very professional, zoomed out like printed. Thank you. I'm glad you're finding value in this stream and also throughout my demonstrations. All right, now I'm going to add some minimal hatching to the folds of the clothing. Okay. I'm going to double check if I missed anything. Okay, the line art of my character is complete. Well, well, not what I usually do, because normally I would do cross hatching and of course some hatching under the details of the clothing or armor pieces, anything basically. But I'm only going to keep it to a minimum, for the sake of this lesson. As you can see, I added some subtle hatching on the clothing designs, on the character's design. But if you have any questions, let me know before I shut the stream off, because that will be all for tonight. And for tonight's and this is optional, but for tonight's homework, I not only want you to sketch out a character that you like, but I also want you to utilize all the methods I've used throughout this live stream session and put it on your own drawings. And then do me a favor, follow me on Instagram, Ken Justin Creations 1, and then upload it as a story and tag me in it and put hashtag Ken Justin Creations. I want to see what you learned from this session. Okay, well, with that being said, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. I live stream two times a week. Also, make sure to check out my website to grab a copy of the how to draw manga book called The Artist's Origin, as well as catch up on my comic series Chaos Extraction. Chapters 1 and 2 are free. Chapter 3 is in development. As well as, if you want to be a long-time supporter, make sure you show your support on Patreon. With that being said, this is Ken Justin Creations signing out. And also stay blessed. Peace. No, that's cool. I know what you meant. But I'm glad you found great value throughout this stream. If you are new, make sure you subscribe as well.